Hello everyone. In this video we will learn how to use arrays as function parameters, that is how to pass it as parameters to a function. We have already seen how to declare an array and how memories are allotted for it, and we have also seen how to declare a function. So we have a function declaration, function calling and function prototype. So both these are already discussed, so make sure you go through those videos before learning this. Links to that videos are present in the video description. So here in this program, in this class, we will learn how to use arrays or how to pass arrays as function parameters. Now suppose I have a array. I have an array with 10 elements. The array can hold 10 elements. So you know that array indexing always starts from 0 to 9. In this case, if I am storing 10 elements, then array index will be from 0 to 9. And let me take this value as name of the array as A. Now I have declared an array int A 10. So A is an array with 10 int values. So what is the size here? Every value requires 2 bytes and then I have 10 values. So 10 into 2 bytes is 20 bytes is the size allotted for this array. Now every time I don't want to give all the 10 values, so I will have a variable called n. I will have a variable called n, and in this n I am going to give a value, that is how many values I want to give for adding. So in this whatever value I give for n, suppose n is 5, then I'm going to give 5 values. So when I give 5 values, you know how to access array elements, you know how to store values into an array. We will use a for loop with an iterative variable like this for using I or j, something like that. So using this variable, we will loop from I equals to 0 up to I less than n. We will read 5 values. These 5 values are stored in this 5 locations. In the remaining 5 locations, we may have initial values like 0. In certain compilers, it will store 0 as a default value. In certain compilers, it will have some junk value. So 5 elements will be used and remaining 5 elements will not be used. Let me take, I have given values like this 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. These are the values I have given. I will use a for loop. For I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, and then I will give a scanf statement within this for loop to read these values and store it in AI. So whatever 5 values I am giving, it is stored from A0 to A4. In the remaining 5 positions, we might have zeros or we might have junk value, that depends on the compiler. Now I want to find sum of all these values that is present in the array using functions. So I'm not going to write the logic within the same main function. Instead, I'm going to use functions for the same. So how to find sum? To find sum, we need to again start from I equals to 0 up to I less than n, I plus plus. I will have a variable sum which is already initialized to 0. To that value, you can use plus equal to, or you can give sum equals to sum plus ai. Every value is added to a variable. That variable's initial value is going to be 0 and we keep on incrementing from 0 to 4. Every value we will add in this and then we will display. So that is how we add all the values of a given array. Now this I want to do it using function. So before main function, we will declare a function prototype for this. So I am going to name the function as ArraySum. ArraySum is the name of the function. It takes 2 parameters. One is an integer array. To pass an int array, you have to specify like this, int and this square brackets without any size. So this says that I am going to pass an int array, and I need to pass an int variable also, which is going to denote how many elements are there. And after adding all the elements, I am going to return one int answer, which is actually the sum of all these elements. Now this is the function prototype or function declaration. This is to be done before main. I am declaring the function Name of the function is ArraySum. It takes two parameters, one int array, one normal variable. It returns one int value. Okay, this is function declaration. Now in the main function, so assume here we have the main function. In the main function, I am going to call this ArraySum function. Call ArraySum function, and to this I need to pass the parameter. It is int array, right? Here I need to give only name of the array and the number of values it stores. Here we print the elements. So remember, here we give int data type and that it is an array, empty square brackets. Here we give only name of the array. Only array name needs to be mentioned. We should not mention the size or the data type here in function declaration. So next is function definition. So in function definition, you have to give the complete data type also. Int a. Here again I am not going to give the size because I am not creating a fresh array here. Instead I am creating a copy of the array that has been passed. Here I have informed compiler that I am passing an array. Here I am specifying name of the array which needs to be passed. This array already has size, right? This array only I am passing, and here since I am creating copy of the original array, how many ever elements the original array has, that will be the size of this array as well. And here I am going to take the variable n. Here I will declare a variable sum which is equal to 0. Here inside this function I am going to declare a variable sum which is equal to 0. Here I will have int I and then sum equals to 0, and then I will write the for loop that was mentioned earlier, and the return the sum instruction which is going to add all the values. Now I will return the value that is stored in sum. So this we will write the complete program. This is just the skeleton of the program, structure of the program I have written. Now what happens when we execute it is, that this is function declaration. No memory is allotted during function declaration. Next we are defining the main array, main function. In main function I have defined a10, ni and then sum. This many things are defined. So a is allotted like this with 10 elements. We have a variable n as well. We have a variable I and we have a variable sum. Now I will ask the user to enter the value for n, and user is entering value as 5 suppose, and that is stored in this n. Now I is equal to 0. So this I am initializing to 0, and I keep on incrementing the value until it reaches 4 because I less than n. Read values one by one, store it in the address of A0, A1, which is already demonstrated here. So whatever I enter, it is stored in this 5 values. Then when I becomes 5, 5 less than 5 will be false and we come out of the loop. Here sum is equal to ArraySum a comma n. Now I am calling the function. So from this point, the compiler jumps to this point where the function is defined. From here a is passed, and this a, it is going to create a duplicate level of memory. So that now we have main function. In main function I have this array a with 20 bytes of memory, and then I have n, I and sum. All these variables are stored. So when I am calling the function, it will create another level of memory for array sum. And what are the values I am passing? Array and n. So n is copied onto this n, which is 5 in this particular example. When I am passing the array, not just the 5 values that I have entered, entire array is duplicated. So entire 20 bytes is duplicated here, out of which the first 10 bytes, that is the first 5 values, are the values that are entered here. Remaining are either junk values or zeros. Whatever was there in the original array, those are as it is copied. Here for the first 5 values it is required data, but the remaining values were junk values, but even those values are copied. Memory is again duplicated and all the junk data is also copied into this local variable. So this is your actual parameter and this is the formal parameter. So into the formal parameter it is copied. Now inside this function I am declaring two more variables, I and sum. Now I will start from 0 to 4 and every value is added and it is stored here. So by end of the loop it will be 150. Now I have given return sum. When I give return statement, you know that all the variables, local variables belonging to ArraySum function will be destroyed. So all these are destroyed and function returns value 150 to this point. So 150 is returned here, that is stored in sum 150. Then we are going to print the value of this or reuse it in some other calculations. So this is how array is passed as a function parameter, and internally the entire array gets copied in the as a local variable as well. So here see the size is 10 and the number of elements is 10 and the size was 20 bytes. Suppose you have a 100, then you will have 100 elements, and imagine if it is a float, then you will have 400 bytes of memory that is being created and values are duplicated. The worst part is all these unused or unused spaces which has junk values, those values are also copied to the main or also copied to the array that is present in the function, which is a local parameter. This is one of the disadvantages of arrays. There are basically two disadvantages by passing arrays directly to as function parameters. So the first disadvantage is that disadvantage of passing an array as a function parameter. The first one is that lot of memory is duplicated. Okay, lot of memory is duplicated and lot of unnecessary work is done. So overhead on compiler is more. Overhead is unnecessary extra work done. Okay, overhead on the compiler is more. So what is that overhead? Creating this 10 bytes of memory and storing this 5 values, that was necessary. Extra 10 bytes of memory creation and copying those junk values, those are all unnecessary. So such unnecessary work is only called as overhead. So that is the first disadvantage. Second disadvantage is, as you know, inside functions, it can access only variables belonging to that function. Suppose this array represents marks, and suppose I want to add some grace marks for all the subjects, say some 2 marks of grace marks I want to add for all the subjects. Then if you make any changes within the function definition, it will be applicable only to that variable, that array which was a local array. Now when you come back to the main function, original array is not modified. So any changes, this second disadvantage, it is not specific to arrays, it is common to all the local parameters of a function. Any changes done within function will not affect the original array. Sometimes if we want to change the original array using this passing arrays as function parameters, we won't be able to change. Any changes done within the function will not affect or will not get updated in the original array. So will not be updated, I'll write, will not be updated in the original array. Suppose I want to make changes, then it is not suitable to pass an entire array to the function as a parameter. To overcome this, we have a concept called as pointers, which we have not yet discussed. In the upcoming videos, we are going to discuss about that. So if you use pointers, we can avoid both these disadvantages. That is, lot of memory duplication is completely avoided. And the second disadvantage, that is, in case you want to modify original variables, it is very easily possible if you are using pointers for passing function parameters. Now this particular example, passing array as a function parameter, let us see with a practical example. I am saving this file as sum of array elements, sum of array.c. So sum of array elements using functions. So first we have to give the header file. I give the header file. Now I need to declare the function, that is function prototype is necessary. Return type is int. Name of the function is ArraySum. It will take one integer array and it will take one normal int variable. This is function declaration. Now I'll define main function. Here I'll give int a, 10, I, n and sum. These are the required variables. Now I will ask the user to enter value of n. And whatever the user enters, it is stored in ampersand n. Now I will ask the user to enter that many values so that it can be added. Enter %d values for the array. Now we'll write a for loop to read that many values. For I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, scanf %d ampersand ai. Now I have read all the values. Now I am going to call ArraySum function, pass the array and the number of elements. Now in this function we have the logic to find sum of the array elements, and calculation is done inside the function, and answer I am getting and that is stored in sum. Now we are going to display the result. Sum of the array elements is %d. This is a main program. Now I have declared ArraySum function. I have passed parameters. Now what happens when we call the function by passing those parameters? That constitutes your function definition. So here I'll write int a, int n. Now I'm going to declare I and sum here. Sum is initialized to 0. Now for loop I'll write for I equals to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, sum plus equal to ai, or you can write sum is equal to sum plus ai. Now when we come out of this for loop, sum variable is having sum of all the elements that we have entered. Now we will return the answer. Now we go back to the main function, and this whatever value is returned by this sum, that is stored in this sum, and then the details are displayed. Now let us save this and execute. Enter value of n, I'll give 5. Now enter 5 values for the array. I'll give 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Sum of the array elements is 150, that has been displayed. Now I'll execute the program again. I'll give 3 values. I'll give 20, 30 and 50. So sum of array elements is 100. So now we have passed the array to the function. Within the function we are adding all the values, and we are going back to the main function with the answer. There we are displaying the answer. So this is how we pass an array to a function as a parameter. So you know that this a and n are local parameters of ArraySum function, which are actually duplicates or copies of the original variables a and n. As I told you, there are certain disadvantages for this. How to overcome this we will see in the upcoming classes, when we will make use of pointers to avoid these disadvantages. We'll see in the upcoming videos. Join our Telegram channel, link to that is mentioned in the description. See you in the next video. Bye bye.